Another book we have on the indoctrination of the socialist, Marxist, communist, atheistic mentality that's drilled into college students. This is a book on ethical conflicts in psychology. Now, this was at my doctoral program. Start off by saying that I got an A in this class, or an A minus. I absolutely crushed this class. So, at a doctoral program, they felt I had a pretty good mastery of this material. And I'm going to show just how opposed this is to the Catholic faith. And again, this is what psychologists are hearing, and the dangers that are both explicit and implicit in these teachings about ethical conflicts in psychology. So what are they really talking about? They're talking about morality. Okay, so we'll kick things off with Chapter 1, Ethic Codes and How They're Enforced. So I have here, and again, we're going line by line through this, certain lines. What a code of ethics does is validate the most recent views of a majority of professionals empowered by their colleagues to make decisions about ethical issues. Thus, a code of ethics is inevitably anachronistic, conservative, ethnocentric, and the product of political compromise. That's true. Unless it's based on objective moral reality, unless there's objective morals and values, guess what? It is going to be subjective. And subjective is not a very far cry from arbitrary. Like, we're just kind of making it up as we go along. So if that's the case, the code of ethics, it's rooted, they're admitting actually right here that it's rooted in relativism. That basically there is no truth. It's whatever the ruling class is putting in front of you right now. So they're admitting that right off the bat, that ethics is on a very, as defined by them, is on a very, very shaky footing. By contrast, this is the Handbook of Moral Theology by Father Dominic Prumer. This is not based on relativism or subjectivism. This is based on the truth of the Catholic faith. It's based on divine revelation as revealed by Christ. That's the light of divine revelation, and the light of natural reason, taken from Aristotle, largely Nicomachean Ethics, which I'm going through right now. St. Thomas Aquinas, this is the commentary of Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics by St. Thomas Aquinas. So this has been going on for the study of morality. I say ethics, but really what we're talking about is morality. The Catholic faith, in this book, it is so robust, so intellectual, so deep, and it's all cohesive. It fits a cohesive whole. There's internal consistency, by far better than these kind of books that you're getting in your doctoral program. Anyway, so they're admitting right off the bat that a code of ethics is going to reinforce what's currently in vogue. Okay, so the theories that are currently in vogue. So not a pretty shaky place to start. That was in Chapter 1. That was on page 1, but I have something before that, actually. I have the introduction. I missed the introduction. Ethics is the study of those assumptions held by individuals, institutions, organizations, and professions that they believe will assist them in distinguishing between right and wrong. So again, ethics is the study of assumptions, not of truth. That's very different than what the Catholic faith teaches, that the objective truth is what morality is about. They that individuals and institutions and organizations and professions believe will assist them in distinguishing right and wrong. Right and wrong is very important. It'd be a shame that everything is based on our belief that it's going to help us. We want it to help us in determining right and wrong. And that's exactly the solid moral footing you get with moral theology. So again, this they're starting off very, very shaky. It's an assumption of something we believe will help us determine the difference between right and wrong. Shaky. Preamble, page 29. Psychologists respect and protect civil and human rights and the central importance of freedom of inquiry and expression in research, teaching, and publication. To modern ears, that sounds like there's no problem, but it's actually repugnant to Catholicism because it's saying psychologists need to respect and protect civil and human rights. Well, what are those human rights? If they're saying those rights are defined by the United States Constitution, that would be based on Freemasonry and deism. That would not be Christian. Human rights, what are they? So like as an example, one of the most basic things we could talk about is the freedom of religion. Do humans have the freedom of religion? True or false? The answer is false, because that notion was religious liberty was actually condemned formally by a pope, and the pope said God has the right to be worshipped on His terms, not on our terms. Now, does that mean you force other people into the Catholic faith by gunpoint? No, of course not. The Catholic faith has always condemned that, but you can't put religions on equal footing, because there is a true and there is a false. The faith that was revealed, the truth that was revealed by God, by Jesus Christ while He lived, is taught by the Catholic faith, which is safeguarded by the Holy Spirit to protect the church from errors. So the timeless teachings of the church of all time are true then, they're true now, and they'll always be true, because God doesn't change. If morality changed, that would mean that God changed, which is impossible. That's a contradiction in terms. Morality would have to always remain consistent if you were going to hold to an unchangeable, perfect God. Pretty logical. So they're saying that psychologists have to respect human rights. So again, slippery, because yes, of course, we do have to respect humans, but that doesn't mean we have to respect putting error on the same footing as truth. In other words, if a person, think about it in math, if someone comes to me and says 2 + 2 = 5, that's not true. I can't give that the same equal weight as 2 + 2 = 4. I might correct that. I might not correct that person harshly. I might not call them an idiot, but I would have to correct that person if I was trying to help them with math. In the same way, if someone was speaking to you and they might be coming from a different place, different belief of you, and that's not in harmony with the truth, it's not in harmony with their well-being. Again, you're not going to beat them over the head with the truth. Maybe sometimes you would strategically, but you're going to walk with that person. You're going to be patient with them. You're going to meet them where they're at, but you're going to have to lead them to the truth if you're truly going to help someone. If you just want to help them a little bit, maybe you could avoid it, but if you truly want to help the person, which is what psychotherapy is supposed to be about, you would have to help them there. You would have to tell them the truth. So it's not unlimited freedom. That's the mentality of America, unlimited freedom, and that's just not the case. And you could just read Pope Leo XIII's document, his encyclical Libertas, which will tell you what liberty truly is. Again, it's all internally consistent. It's in line with the doctors of the church. It's in line with the theologians. It's Thomism. It's all there. 2 more examples I have from the book. The relationship between behavior and beliefs. It says, the data suggests that psychologists' behavior was generally in accordance with their ethical beliefs. Okay, well, what if their ethical beliefs are wrong? What if someone says, my ethical beliefs are that abortion is legal, or that divorce is okay, that divorce is morally good? That's going to impact. So the psychologist's behavior was generally in accordance with their ethical beliefs. Problematic, because if these ethical beliefs are not objective truth, who cares if they're in line with their ethical beliefs? I could make up an ethical beliefs right now and then use that to justify any bad behavior that I want, and I could say, well, it was in accordance with my ethical beliefs. That doesn't really tell you anything. That's, again, moral relativism, and it's dangerous, and you see it. It's right there in the book. And then I have here, we're on chapter, what are we at here? We're at learning ethics. Okay, so ethical systems, now they're going to talk about the difference between these different ethical systems. Ethics in the professional practice of psychologists, the role of virtues and principles. So it's saying here, ethical systems that emphasize universally valid principles, that's Catholicism, they claim objective independence of people involved. Correct. Moral values are objective than the people that are involved. Sure, the people that are involved, they're the actors of moral behavior, but moral principles are indeed objective of a person, of any person, of all of us. In contrast, virtue ethics focus on historically formed character of identifiable persons. So what they're doing is they're splitting. You know the work of the devil because he divides. And what they're doing here is they're dividing objective objective morality from virtues, which again, you go back to Nicomachean Ethics 300 years before Christ, approved and given the highest approbation by St. Thomas Aquinas, whose teachings are normative in the Catholic faith, according to Pope Leo XIII's document, Aeterni Patris. That is the lens. Thomism is the lens from which to view the Catholic faith, and as such, reality. They're pitting objective morality against virtue, which is not what the Catholic Church teaches. Okay? Principle ethics, objective morality, tends to focus on acts and choices through the application of what are taken to be objective, rational standards, rules, and codes. They attempt to answer the question, what shall I do? Good. Virtues, on the other hand, emphasize the agents or the actors. So it's this humanism, this emphasis on the person. And again, humans have a very high dignity in that they're created in the image and likeness of God. They're different not only in, they're not just different in degree than other animals, they're different in kind. God created man in his own image. So virtue, so of course, man does have a dignity, but it says virtues, on the other hand, emphasize the agent. So it's implying that morality is almost against an individual person, whereas really it's indifferent, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not totally indifferent, because you still have to have an actor, you have to have a person to execute a moral behavior, but they're not at odds here. It says virtues, on the other hand, emphasize actors or agents through the formation of internal qualities, traits, and mature habits. Virtue ethics attempt to answer the question, who shall I be? Now, obviously, objective morality, the Catholic faith is concerned with that. All of St. Ignatius' spiritual exercises, the discernment of spirits, are all about who shall I be, in the sense of what is my vocation. But who shall I be? First of all, you hear a lot of jargon here. The formation of internal qualities, traits, and mature habits. So what good are these internal qualities, traits, or mature habits if they're not based on objective moral standards? We could be forming monsters. If the internal qualities, traits, and mature habits are atrocious, terrible behavior, that's what we're forming. Who shall I be? And again, there is an element of who we are going to become, but we have to remember we do have an identity. We're children of God. We're in this life, we are called to glorify God here so we can be with him forever in heaven. We are called to be Catholics. So when you say, who shall I be? That's not a completely open-ended question as our modern society tends to look at it. They look at it through the lens of, whatever you would like to be. So it's dangerous. You just have to be aware of that. And no mention of this. I get it. It's a secular institution. Well, actually, it's not a secular institution. This doctoral program that I was in a Catholic school. So this was being taught at a Catholic school's doctoral program. Nothing about God here. Nothing about the Catholic faith in these books. And I already mentioned several books from my doctoral program that was at a Catholic university. The limitations of ethical and principles and dilemmas. So you're saying there's limitations in objective moral moral standards. It says, by definition, ethical principles seek grounding in a universal context freed of individual bias. Yes. And yet the definitive nature of quandaries places principles in direct conflict with each other. To solve this dilemma, appeal must be made to the fundamental moral principles supported by one's moral theory. So it's saying that when two things are at odds, we have to appeal to the moral principles, right? So what are we looking at? It says later on, there is no evident way to determine which principle should take precedence over which others. So what they're basically saying is that each religion or each ethical system, there's many different people who could come up with an ethical code. Okay, so there's no evident way to determine which principles, like who we should. Not only which religion should we take over the others, but also which principles, when principles are at odds, which one gives way, which one yields. And again, look, the Handbook of Moral Theology, this covers all of that. This talks exactly how in an objective way you have objective moral standards, And when certain things come into conflict, what do you do? Okay, how are you supposed to think? It's not just an open-ended quandary, so it's all there. Like I said, you have ethical conflicts in psychology, taught at a Catholic doctoral program, Catholic school doctoral program, and very shaky assumptions. You have the Handbook of Moral Theology by Father Prumer. It all makes sense. It's unifying, it's satisfying, and it's all consistent with truth. So again, you've seen the evidence there. You're intelligent people. You be the judge. But you have to make sure that the solution to this, the way to get out of this jam with all this bad information going on in universities, is following Our Lady of Fatima's 5 commands that she promised. When enough Catholics fulfill these 5 commands, then we'll have the triumph of the Immaculate Heart, which will bring all of this to an end. The errors of Russia will cease, and Russia will be converted. God bless you. God bless your families. Oh, and those commands are Roman Catholic SOS. That's mnemonic for R, Rosary, daily. C, consecrate yourself to Mary. S, scapular, wear the brown scapular. O, offer up your sufferings. And S, Saturdays, first Saturday devotion. God bless you. God bless your families. Take care.